Hello, and welcome to our Freedom Speak podcast, the mouthpiece for Freedom Speak International, an organization built for and by the immigrant communities in Canada to articulate and amplify and also create awareness around issues that matter to us. Today, we are privileged to host Mr. Hazrat Wahriz, writer, translator, and educator who is giving Afghan girls denied an education a lifetime and also helping immigrants tell their stories in different languages. Welcome to the studio, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it's a privilege. Before we begin, let me reiterate that on this podcast, we support, promote, and encourage free speech within the confines of the rule of law, respect for oneself, and respect for others. Welcome to the studio again, Mr. Hazrat. Would you start by introducing yourself?
Well, my name, as you mentioned, is Hazrat Wahriz, and I was born in Afghanistan about 1,000 years ago. And right now I'm living in Canada. This is my second home. I'm a former university instructor at Kabul University. I did my studies in education and philology in Russia. And yes, as you said, I'm a translator, educator, poet, and writer.
Wonderful. That's a very, very impressive profile. So tell me a little more about your writing. Which is your latest work?
Well, my latest one is not published. It is called A Stranger in His Homeland. It is a memoir of mine from childhood, 5 years old boy who came home crying that his playmates calling him Hazara, and he considered Hazara as an insult, while it is just the name of an ethnicity the narrator, that is me, belonged to. So it is about discrimination and racism in Afghanistan through the eyes of a boy from 5 years old to 43. So this is the latest, but besides writing for adults, I write for children as well. This is a fairy tale for children that is called Kaka Murad and the Magic Box. It was published in Afghanistan in 3 main languages of Afghanistan, then in Vietnamese and Japanese, if I can find the Japanese version. Yeah, this is the Japanese. And recently it was published in English here in Canada as well. So this is the last.
It's amazing. That's a very amazing work and very encouraging that you've been able to do so much. So tell me a little bit about your translation work. You said you help other writers who are not English speakers translate and articulate their storytelling. How is that
No,
like?
this was a misunderstanding. I'm translating from Russian and English into Farsi mainly. And from Farsi into Russian. Like this is a book of history of Islamic philosophy. But I mainly focus on translation of Russian writers, Russian dissident writers and poets into Farsi. So I had the privilege to introduce Farsi readers with prominent Soviet and Russian writers and poets that previously they didn't know. For instance, from Moscow to the End of Line of Venedikt Yerafeyev, and I've translated Anna Akhmatova, Sergei Yesenin, mainly those writers and poets that didn't like the ruling circle in their own country, in Soviet Union or in Russia.
Yes. So you're an advocate for freedom of speech. So I think it's fitting to have you here on this program because our job is to try and help people like yourselves and others to be heard. We're giving voice to those that don't have.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this kind of writings helps readers in Farsi-speaking world. It is more than 100 million people in Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and some other Central Asian countries and Indian subcontinent. So I wanted to let them see that freedom of speech is an issue not only in their countries, but in other countries too, and to let them know how the other writers, poets fight for freedom of speech in other countries.
Yes, that is a very, very important work. So you shared with me a little snippet of your writing, and I'm wondering whether you're ready to read for us maybe a poem or something that you have written that you think we would enjoy.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm from a war-torn country, and
Yes.
all of us, all immigrant writers and poets and artists,
Hmm.
flee their country because of some reasons.
Yes.
Either they are under pressure because of what they do,
Right.
or just the existence of war doesn't allow them to live and work. So this is a poem about father who doesn't know where his child is.
Right.
Because when you're fleeing a country,
Right.
you don't know who where goes. And it was written before WhatsApp and all this media that now we have the pleasure to have.
Yes.
It was composed at that time.
When was it written? Yeah. When was it published?
Uh, it is not published yet. It
Uh-huh.
was written 2008 or 9. I do not remember. Sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Go
And
ahead.
now I don't even know from where on earth you orbit the sun. From this point on, I send my prayers to 4 sides and 6 directions. I now worry about the fate of entire world at all times. I fear asteroids would fall all over the earth. I think about the bus en route to Gu and the explosion of hatred in the Orgon Bazaar. I worry about the war that might erupt in an island named too hard to pronounce, or the boat that might sink and drown all the smuggled immigrants inside. I worry about a bomb explosion on a London subway, or a plane hitting a skyscraper, or the callous thoughts of haters, of the evil souls, the kind that lives in beautiful mansions or creepy caves. And from all the celestial gods, I now wish that they appoint an angel to guard your smile. My hands now hang on 2 sides, like the worn-out sleeves of a shirt hanging from a clothesline. Every functional piece inside me has stopped working, except for my expecting eyes and my heart that beats with fear that something terrible could be happening to you, and my lips that prays to all gods for your protection, because now everything is out of my hands.
So yes, I was gonna say that that is very important work. Could you explain more? What was going through your mind as you were writing that?
Well, as I told you, when there's war and you are in need of escaping the war and fleeing the country, you don't have the privilege to make a plan where to go. So you send your kids, your brother, your beloved
Hmm.
ones, wherever it is possible. You do not choose where to go.
Yes.
That's how you lose the connection, the contact of your beloved ones.
Okay.
You see, if you are following the news about immigrants, about refugees, asylum seekers that try to pass from Turkey to Greece, from North Africa to European countries, Italy, and so on and so forth, you hear the news about sinking the boats that carry the immigrants. So this is about that. And think of those people, their relatives, their friends that gets that kind of news from TV channels, from radio, from media, not from.
All right. That is. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, and I look forward to the day when it is published, and then you can share it to a wider audience. So, tell me, how many languages do you speak?
I'm a confident speaker of 6 languages. That is Farsi, my native language, Pashto, the second official language of my country, Hindi, the most important language of our most important neighbor, Pakistan and India. And since I studied in Russia, I speak Russian, and I started learning Ukrainian. So, and I learned it, I think, so, and then English. So Turkish, so all these languages.
That is amazing. So, how do you learn these languages? Are you a born polyglot, or have you done this out of what interest, work?
Well, I was a child laborer when I
Mm-hmm.
was 13, 14, and I worked for an Indian company that was owned by Indian individuals. And they were kind enough to bring me some textbooks from India to Kabul and opportunity to talk to them and in Hindi. And since Indian movies are very popular in my country, were very popular in my country, and I kept watching those movies. So that's how I learned that third language. So if you are from Afghanistan, it is something unique when you are born in an English-speaking country, because they do not find the necessity of learning a different language, because wherever you go, you find someone to speak your language. But when you're from that part of the world or from European countries, you are born as a polyglot.
Yeah, it's a gift. I think you're very talented. So tell me a little bit more about translation. What goes into translating a book? I'm asking because I tend to think that when you're translating a work of art or literature from one language to another, there's a risk that some of the meaning of that writing could be lost in translation. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it happens very natural. There's no intention of the translator to translate in a way to lose meaning, feelings, and so on and so forth. There's a French or Russian saying that translation is the other side of Persian carpet. So it happens even in our daily routine. When we are telling someone else a message that was sent through us, we are kind of correct. We do not remember everything. So this is the same thing about languages, because the logic, the structure of each language differs. So I can give you an interesting example. For instance, if you ask in Korean language someone, how are you? You literally ask, did you eat rice? So if the answer is positive, you're okay, you're fine. Imagine if someone, an unexperienced translators, translate this into another language, will translate literally, did you eat rice? Which makes no sense in other languages. So, and besides, the mentality of people, it is different. And this is what makes a translation still a job, a profession, because there are nuances that even the best AI cannot figure out.
Yeah. But I understand that AI cannot be trusted to actually be accurate. So maybe there is a very important job that you are doing to diversify voices in literature and in storytelling, and I thank you for that. So let us talk more a little about your very important work, which is the role that you're playing in the education of girls from Afghanistan, girls who we know are denied an education, and you are stepping in and filling that gap. Tell us more about that, how you're doing it and how it is like.
Well, girls in Afghanistan are not denied only of education, they are denied of the status of being human beings. We didn't have such a barbaric despoty regime in the entire world history. When a gender is gender apartheid in Afghanistan, what is going on. And there are lots of people from Afghanistan abroad that try to work for democracy, for freedom of speech, and so on and so forth. But prior than that, need to educate future moms to educate their children in a way that they can understand the value of life of themselves and life of other people, not to kill. While I was in Afghanistan, I had access to a kind of classified documents, classified information. And there I noticed that the unsuccessful suicide attackers, none of them was born to a mother that was literated. I'm not talking about educated, just simple reading and writing. Their moms didn't have this ability. That is why those children that couldn't see hope, beauty of life, couldn't learn this.
Yes.
They were subject to those mullahs, to those clergies that could, with the promise of heaven and so on and so forth, encourage them to go and blow themselves and
Yes.
take lives of others. So I think the most important part of resilience to this barbaric government is to educate future moms. So we are active in 20 provinces of Afghanistan, and thousands of students we have and hundreds of teachers. Educate them. We teach them physics, chemistry, biology, and so on and so forth to help them understand that our world is slightly bigger than
Yes.
what the clergy says, what the religious extremist leaders of that country in their villages or from their mosques, they are told. So we started this 45 days after the collapse of the previous government. Word spreads very fast, and people in neighboring areas heard about our activities, and they also came to us and asked us to help them establish this kind of schools everywhere. So what we did is turning the homes of the former teachers into classrooms in rural areas of Afghanistan where Taliban do not have that much control.
I see. But what is it that the Taliban actually fears? That what would happen when girls get to understand that there is more outside than what they're trying to prevent them from seeing? What is it that they fear?
Well, if someone is ignorant and has a lot of power, the main fear she has is to see people educated, to see people understand his or her ignorance. That is why they are afraid of education, modern education itself, because it threatens their power, that it is easy for them to convince people that their power is coming from heaven, from Allah, from God, and so on and so forth. But when people are educated, they cannot convince them. That's what we are struggling for. So an educated society is the greatest danger to all dictator regimes, wherever they are.
I hear you. I hear you. Let me understand the degree of risk for the girls that are receiving this formal education, given that the Taliban does not want that to happen. Is there a risk to the girls that are coming to the schools, their families, and even maybe to yourself?
Living in Afghanistan is risky by itself, especially when you are girl, when you are Hazara, when you are when you speak a different from the Taliban language. All these, yes, may cause danger to you. But since we have great cooperation and support of the community, we can prevent any kind of risk. Whenever the Taliban wants to send a group of people to check our schools, our classrooms, we know about that. We get the news about that. We take care nothing bad to happen to our girls, to our teachers. Afghanistan is traditionally perceived as a very traditionalist, conservative country, which is true. And because since the occupation of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union, a huge investment was given to radicalize the Afghanistan society in order to fight the Soviet Union. They succeeded. They radicalized our society, and now they left us with that barbaric people in the group. But consider even just 10, 15 years ago, women could go and vote for their government with all that falsification and all that chaos that was related to all those votings and so on and so forth. But people were ready to accept democracy. I heard a woman that came food, not by car. She made a 3 hours trip to vote. And when she was asked, why did you come here today? She said, I came here to appoint our president. You see, this understanding of the meaning of voting by a woman, an elderly 70s in a rural area of Afghanistan was at this level. We failed that. We betrayed I mean the entire world, because as Mikhail Bakhtin, the prominent thinker of 20th century Russia, he said, when there is something wrong going on, wherever it is, and if you don't do anything about that, it is your fault. You are responsible for anything bad that is happening somewhere. So keeping in mind that saying of Mikhail Bakhtin, I started this initiative to give education, to give the opportunity to get education for girls that otherwise were deprived.
Yeah, that is a really, really great work. And it's very encouraging that even in the kind of environment that everybody in Afghanistan is living in, that these girls have hope. So let me ask you a question about your own sense of obligation. Why do you keep doing this when you know that yourself, you're at risk?
Well, I personally, no, I'm not at risk, because as long as I'm here in Canada, I do not fear of any kind of risk here. But I cannot go to my first country, that is Afghanistan. Why I do this? You know, we in Afghanistan consider our country as, and we call it motherland.
Yes, it is motherland.
Your mom can be, most probably your mom is not Miss Universe, is not the most educated, is not the kindest human being in this planet. Yes, it is true. But this is your mom. And the only difference between the mom that gave you birth and your motherland is that you can change your motherland for better, even how it looks. And what I do is I'm giving the debt to my motherland, from my second motherland, that is Canada, where I have the privilege not to think of different kind of risks that living in Afghanistan could cause to me. So this peace in mind, this environment in Canada gives me this opportunity to think about something that is not essential for me as an individual that thinks only about paying his bills and purchasing this and that.
I hear you. I hear you. And I'm glad that you're in a safe environment and you are able to continue the work. But I would like to understand, when you are here and away from Afghanistan, who is holding down the fort? Who is doing the work,
Inside
working with you
in Afghanistan.
inside Afghanistan? Yes.
As I
Now they safe?
Yes. As a university teacher and as a former diplomat, I have very good network in Afghanistan. My former students, my former colleagues, they are my supporters. When the Taliban came, the first thing I thought about is education of girls, because from the previous period of the Taliban ruling in 90s, I had the knowledge that they would ban education for girls. So I contacted my former colleagues at universities that I was teaching and former students that were teachers, and shared this idea of turning their houses into schools, into classrooms. And they accepted. Most of them work voluntarily even now. And the good news is that certificate is recognized outside country. You know, right now, dozens of our graduates study in different countries: Indonesia, Bangladesh, Azerbaijan, South Korea, US. Some of them got scholarships even to Canada, but we'll see if they can get visa, because immigration officers have other priorities, other kind of rules that.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that question about those girls that have qualified to come here, but they're not able to do so because of visa restrictions or other challenges, and ask what it is that can be done to ensure that these processes are done without causing these girls any more pain, given that they've been through a lot already?
First of all, we need to assure the Immigration Canada Department that the least dangerous people that you can imagine are girls from Afghanistan seeking education. They are very resilient. They have the capacity. They are ready to integrate to this society, to bring something positive to this society, because they have the first-hand experience of a dictatorship, of a censorship. So probably they need to consider this as well. Yes, I understand that not at this point, not those girls probably will not return to Afghanistan because of the situation there. Because an educated woman in Afghanistan by itself, it is a kind of crime. Yes. So we do not give the paper version of certificate to our girls, because just having this certificate means they are violating their supreme leader's decree.
This is unfortunate.
But these girls prove that they are capable to be positive people.
Yeah, they have a contribution to make, yes. They do have a contribution that is very important. So given this scenario, tell me how many girls are in process of wanting to come into Canada as we speak?
As we speak, we have 3 girls that got admission to Centennial College and another college somewhere in London, Ontario. I forgot the name of it. So 3 girls got admission, but will they get visa as well? I hope so.
What would your appeal be, and what kind of help do you need, not just for those 3 girls who are trying to get into Canada, but for the girls in Afghanistan as a collective right now, that you can appeal, maybe send an appeal to the government of Canada, an appeal to the international community to help improve the welfare of these girls?
You know, it requires me a long time to explain what was wrong in those 20 years of the presence of international community, including Canada, in Afghanistan before that. I know Canada right now is helping a lot through different UN organizations and so on and so forth. Just consider that the salary that single person in those organizations gets is equal to probably salary of 200 teachers per month. And if you consider that one teacher of our teachers has from 20 to 30 students, you can imagine how much positive change we can bring to just help those teachers. Like $100 per month can keep off 20 to 30 girls. And it gives a woman in Afghanistan to have an income. If we want gender equality, we change the position with this kind of salary, we change the position of a girl inside a family.
That's right.
The father, the husband will look differently if his wife or daughter brings salary by her work.
Yes. Yeah. You know, in Africa, we say when you educate a woman, you educate a community. The
Yes.
entire community benefits.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yes.
That's what we are doing. We do not just teach ordinary, normal subjects like physics, chemistry, and so on and so forth. We teach them to make money by producing different kind of stuff that are possible to produce in Afghanistan in their homes, like jam, the sweet.
Yes. It's jam for bread. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Different kind of stuff, and we teach them how to cultivate plant, beans, and so on and so forth. So what we do is very, very important. Unfortunately, I do not have the hope to see the result of our works in my life. But I am sure that this initiative will spread all over Afghanistan. Maybe in 100 years, if nothing else happens extraordinary, maybe in 50 years or 100 years, Afghanistan, through these girls that we are educating right now, changes for better.
No, it will. Change begins with the very, very small steps. We say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. The fact that a number of girls are already finding hope in your schools, formal or otherwise, that in itself is great work. And we are grateful to have you here talking about this.
Thank you. And just to answer your question, we have applied for grant to the government of Canada, and we hope to hear something positive from them.
Yes, I hope so too. I hope so too, and I hope that the work that you're doing, which is very important, continues. So let me go a little way back into discussions about writing and translations, and ask if there's something that you would like to speak to in that regard, because I work with immigrant writers and I talk to a lot of them in this podcast and otherwise. And what I hear often is that their voices are not being heard enough because of language limitations. And even when they need to translate their work, it's not easy for them to access this kind of service. So talk a little bit more about it.
Well, yes, the language barrier is a great obstacle. And when you are a writer from a non English-speaking country, you have to struggle to pay your bills, first of all. And the kind of jobs that you can find in Canada without English, it is normally not at the government of Canada, not at a university or somewhere else. You go to deliver pizza, you go and do Uber, you go and work as a constructor or an electrician. Can you blame Canadian society for not knowing about us, about our point of view?
To the point, yeah.
Of course not.
Yes.
Because here, in order to be heard, you need to present a material that can be interesting for Canadian audience. If you fail to do that, well, it is your fault. I wish there were programs enabling immigrants to not only that ESL classes, not only that adult schools and so on and so forth, special classes for this kind of people who came here with PhD and start doing Uber or deliver pizza or clean houses. So this is a kind of waste of capacity in Canada, because these people can bring many, many positive things to our society here. And to use them as a pizza driver, it is waste of. Yeah. I hear you. And yes, that frustration comes through often when we interact with immigrant community. I've met a doctor who is a surgeon or used to be a pediatric surgeon, and now he has to do Uber. So I understand when you say that there is a desperate need to mainstream people with important skills to be able to work here and contribute to nation building in Canada. And I do understand that there are programs already in place that are trying to do this, but maybe they're not working fast enough. So what would be your appeal to those responsible in that regard, by the way? What would you say that needs to happen to address this situation, given that you're looking at everybody, not just the people who are writing stories and trying to tell their stories, but everyone who is here as an immigrant and hoping to integrate in this community who needs support? Probably the first thing we need to ask, one of the first questions we need to ask newcomers is, what can you bring to this society? What can you do? And considering this, to suggest her or him where to go to get the kind of assistance that enables him to be nearly at the same position that he was in his or her country. If someone was a doctor, he can serve as an assistant of a doctor here. And do we need nurses here? Yes, we need. Otherwise, You don't have to wait 8 hours in emergency section of a hospital to get the treatment you need. You go there for emergency issue, and you have to wait 4 to 8 hours. 8 hours is the maximum that I had to wait.
I'm so sorry to
So
hear that.
this is just an example. As a teacher with experience of teaching in several universities, could I be a good teacher for, I don't know, somewhere in Yukon? Yes, this is the 44th country I am in, yeah? And I have a huge luggage of experience. Sharing that experience, I think, help Canadian kids or young people to have a better understanding of the world. But I cannot get that because I do not have Canadian experience when I'm a newcomer. This is waste of talent. I know many doctors, university professors, soccer players, like people in the field of sport, art, painting, movies, and so on and so forth. But here, what they are doing is pizza delivery.
Thank you so very much for making the time. And for anyone who is listening, if you like our podcast, please find us on Instagram. We are also on Spotify and we are on YouTube. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Vanya. Thank
Bye
you
for
for
now.
having me.
Bye for now. I'm your host, Wanja Gathu. Till we meet again, it's bye now.